With another phenomenal podcast for you today. We got the great Roy Rose joining us. And if you don't know who Roy is, by the time this show's over, you're going to know a lot about this man. He in Southern California is a true legend. The things that he has done in his career are absolutely phenomenal. And we're going to get way deep into his career and learn all about how he got into fishing today. So I want you all to kick back, relax, and get ready for one of the best podcasts I've ever done. I am super excited to have him on. He's just like myself. If we both can piss in a puddle, we're going to be fighting to fish in that puddle. So kick back and watch that. And today is AFTCO Monday. We always talk about AFTCO products on Monday. And gang, we'll be throwing up the QR code in a few minutes here. And this is a big deal. AFTCO is allowing all of our followers to save 15% on all the products that are available at AFTCO. The clothing itself, you watch all my videos with my foul weather gear on and all the different kinds of shorts I wear and all the clothes I wear, and you'll see AFTCO's been a big sponsor of the sport boat that Roy is the captain of. You'll see a lot of AFTCO products worn in a lot of the pictures. When you're looking at Roy and his crew, AFTCO is a big supporter of your saltwater guide and of the sport fishing community, and the give back level of AFTCO is absolutely incredible. So when you use the QR code or you type in the code YSWG and the number 15, while you're on the website, look at their story, find out who they are. Their founder is Bill Shedd. His father was Milton Shedd. They were the creators of SeaWorld. There's so much that goes into the AFTCO world and so much history that it's just a fun company to go look around and see what they're all about. So once again, everybody over at AFTCO, thank you very much for supporting my podcast and supporting all my guides. We really appreciate all the phenomenal things you do for the industry and the phenomenal things you do for your saltwater guide and all my guides. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you very much, AFTCO. And gang, take advantage of the 15% off. You're not going to see this very often where AFTCO is giving you 15% off. And remember, they give back a ton. They're huge supporters of CCA California and huge supporters of the sport fishing industry. So check out AFTCO. Do me a favor, go over there, use the code YSWG, the number 15, or grab the QR code right here off our screen. We'll put the QR code up a little bit later in the show. But hey, without any further ado, and there is a lot of people in the community, and there's a lot of people out there that want to hear from you, Roy, because no one's ever really got to hear much from you. We got to see all the great things you've done, but this is going to be a phenomenal interview. I'm super excited. Welcome to the show, Mr. Rose.
How you doing?
I am super excited to talk fishing with Roy Rose. Come on. This is going to be insane.
Yeah. I hope I can tell you some good stories, I guess.
Yeah, I think you will be able to. But hey, you and I have been in this industry our whole lives. So why don't you go back a little bit? How did you find this passion we call fishing?
I was pretty much born.
All right. Roy will be back on with us in just a second. He's got a couple little babies over there at the house, and I'm sure something happened to his feed. But I'm sure he'll jump back on here in just a second, gang. Just bear with us. But there he is. He's back. That was quick. Welcome back.
Are you still there?
Yep, we're here. We're all ready for you, buddy.
Hello?
Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Roy, can you hear us? Can you see us?
Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Anyway,
good.
he started taking me when I was a little kid. Started taking me on boats when I was 6, fishing around when he ran the boat off the IB Pier. And then by the time I was 10, he was taking me on 6-pack charters with him, and then just started from there.
So you started off on the IB Pier?
I can't tell if this thing's on.
Yeah, it's on. Hold on a second. Just hang on, everybody. Hang on. Little technical difficulties.
I can't see him, but anyway. No, that's started doing that and then working at working
Hold
on
on.
fishing boats started from 12 on till currently now. You know, working on weekends, working summers, working Christmas breaks, anything and everywhere to go. I apologize. I don't know if this thing's working.
Okay, so they're going to get back on again in just a second. They're having some technical difficulties over there at the Rose House. So just stay with us for a minute, gang. This is going to be a great interview. Okay, now can you hear us?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Somebody tried to call and I think it screwed everything up.
All right. Well, we're back now, so we're ready.
Okay.
So how did you get into fishing? Let's start at the beginning again.
At the beginning again, I started. My dad was pretty much was crazy about fishing. He ran sport boats for the military. He ran the boat called the Rollover, the Kim, uh, all from the Navy bases, from 32nd Street, stuff like that. But anyway, he was into it, so naturally I got brought up into it. So he started taking me when I was 6 years old. He would bring me out on the old city of Imperial Beach, and he'd bring me out there to fish whatever, because he'd run 3 trips a day. So he'd like pretty much just bring me out, and I just started going with him, hanging out, and just watching everything and getting my sea legs, I guess, at an early age.
And when you think back, that's still probably burned into your mind. I know it's burned into my mind when my dad and mom took me fishing when I was 4 years old on the San Clemente Pier, and I watched my dad back into the pier and get on the sump fun. And those days, that's what did it for me and you, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember. I still remember the first barracuda I caught. I was at the loading gate. I had a 155 and some whatever the pole was. I don't know, but all I do know is my dad would fly line the rod, hand me the rod, it'd be in gear, and it was good fishing. Obviously, you just put it in gear and just turn the handle. And I remember winding the thing up. The barracuda, the crew member was trying to gap it, and I got this 35-inch barracuda out of the water, tail walking. My dad walks by and goes, just throw it over. He comes over, grabs a foregrip and slings it over. And I was like, you're a little kid, you throw the pole down, you run over, you're trying to tackle this thing. He's like, whoa, trying to hold me back. But no, I still remember it vividly.
Oh, absolutely. And you got to, right now, we're under attack here in the state of California. They do not want people fishing anymore. And wouldn't that be terrible if you and I didn't get to fish when we were little kids?
Oh, it'd be horrible. I remember even freshwater, going saltwater, freshwater, it didn't matter. I remember when I was a little kid, we'd be into catching snakes and lizards. And one day we ditched intercession. So we went down into this canyon, and I found 4 ponds. Never knew they were there. My dad didn't know they were there. And my dad hadn't fished freshwater in years since he was a young kid. So I came home, and actually the intercession called and says, your son wasn't here today. So I get home, my dad's like, where were you? So then I had to come clean, and then he goes, ponds? What ponds? So we jump in his Jeep and we go down into the canyon. And after that, it was on. We would go there every day after school, or he would pick me up from school, and we go down there and catch bluegill, bass, catfish. It didn't matter what it was. He'd fish bass and I'd fish bluegill or whatever. Remember, I'm only 7 or 8 at this point. But like you said, just getting exposed to that and getting to do that and giving you something to look forward to. You go to school, you do your work, you're excited, you get the heck out of school and run down there and go fishing.
Yeah,
go fishing.
that is so cool that you say that, because you're blessed like I was, that our fathers grew up in this industry and brought us into this industry. And you and I, we can't even imagine living in a world where we think that our children won't be able to fish. That would be just so gnarly. I just don't understand why the state of California is on such a tear to stop fishing. I mean, you don't get exposed to it so much in the world that you're in now because you're down here fishing in Mexico most of the time. But man, they're making it so that most of us are running out of things to fish for up here in California. It's pretty crazy.
Oh,
And
I know.
now they want the sand bass, Roy. And you and I both know those are a migratory fish. They come from Mexico.
Yeah, they cruise right up the beach like any other tuna or yellowtail. It isn't like they're here all year.
And now they want to put another regulate, even though they stopped us from taking 10 and now it's 5 and they got to be 14 inches, which is all just silly. But now they just want they want to stop the season when they're biting, that time of the year when the sand bass, if they ever do spawn again, they want to take that fishing away from us. And it sounds to me like that's kind of how your dad was running the half day boats down there. That's our bread and butter in the industry with sand bass, barracuda, right?
Oh yeah, right out in front of the Ivy Pier. They just throw the people on and idle out 300 yards, start reading around hard bottom, and start getting all their sand bass, barracuda, whatever. Or they go to the islands. You know, they have the option of running basically wherever the fish are. But little 45-minute run to the islands, go there and fish for whatever's available.
Yeah, and it was fine, and they came every year, and it wasn't a big deal. Now all of a sudden, it's the most sacred thing in the world is the sand bass. It's just I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. But we won't. No more negative. Let's talk positive. So, how did you get? Did your dad take you to be a deckhand the first time, or how did you get into working on the boat? You watched your dad do it, and then
Yeah, no, well, he ran these 6-pack boats, and he wanted to bring me so he could bring me. He would bring me along, but I was just there to help. I was like an extra set of hands, like a pinhead. So he started taking me when I was 10, and I could go on the trip, 6-pack trip, and my job was just basically just fish. I fished, and whatever I hooked, I would hand the rod off. Didn't matter what it was, I hook it and hand it off. That way nobody would complain and there wouldn't be anything negative about it. You know, hey, this guy's got this little kid running around, but no, this kid's helping us catch fish, so everything's cool that way. So, and then I would just learn by watching his crew members, or when they would screw up. Well, I guess I won't be doing that. Uh, the heads are dirty. He'd yell at, okay, make sure the bathrooms are clean. So then, you know, a couple of years of that. And then one time his crew member, he showed up. He didn't show up. He was late. He had a party the night before or whatever, came back hammered. And my dad said, look, if you show up drunk tomorrow, you're out of here. So another big night for the guy. And sure enough, uh, my dad waited around 10 minutes, told him, get your stuff off the boat, you're out of here. And it was funny because the guy goes, you can't fire me. You have no one to work. And then he pointed at me and he goes, he's going to work. He does all your work anyway. And then he goes, you ready to get paid, son? I said, sure. I didn't know any better, but it was great. And it just started from there.
And you think back to it, Roy, you and I, we love to fish. And then to think that we're getting paid to be on the boat to fish. I mean, it's incredible. We do it for free all day and never even think about the money part, right?
All right, you go down to the bay, you go on another boat or a half day boat, whatever. Half the time you end up casting those people out or showing them what to do. You know what I mean? Crew members are all busy, but there's always rent runners. There's always someone that's struggling, or there's always another little kid that, you know, I bring my kids out. I would bring my kids out pretty soon. I'd have 5 kids I was in charge of, and I would just be casting them out full speed and handing them back the rods, or tying plastics on, casting them out, and letting them I go turn the hand, just start turning the handle, and just, you know, getting them bites and getting them excited, and hopefully one of them gets the bug. You know,
Exactly. That's it. That's all we want to see. And I know you get that all the time doing what you do now for a living every single day. There's nothing better than seeing that face when they catch that fish that they've tried to catch their whole life. that fish of a lifetime. You and I hear it all the time. That's my bucket list. And I don't know about you, but my heart swells up a little bit when I know that I got those people on that fish that they would have never had a chance to do if it wasn't for you or I.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's cool when they're sitting there and second that thing comes over the rail or it's the deck, whatever. Hold my rod. I gotta get my camera. Or who's got a camera? I mean, they're just all wound up. I mean, just it that right there is it. That's you know that's it. It's like the look on their face. They're just beaming. They've planned a whole year to come out on that trip to catch that fish, and you make it happen, or you had a part in it. In any way, shape, or form, and it's very satisfying.
Yeah, and I know for a fact because of the conversations you and I have had before that it means a lot to you. Where there are captains that are just like bus drivers, and I understand it. And I'm not taking anything away from anybody, but you and I, we have a personal thing about what we're doing with the people. We're down there involved the whole time. You're down there with your passengers all the time, touching them, talking to them, feeling what they're feeling, and understanding. I'm not taking anything away. And if there's a lot of captains watching right now, Roy, because I don't know if you know, but you're kind of a big deal. Right now we have the largest audience I've ever had on a podcast right this second. I've never had this many people watching a podcast live. Okay. Wow. I just want you and everybody out there to understand. I got the back of my head, the hair standing up on the back of my head right now. I cannot, but thank you all for watching. This is incredible. And it matters to me and it matters to Roy, and we both love that. So, but we care about what our passengers catch. We care more about it than you can even comprehend, gang. Yeah, we do it for a living, but we also do it for the sheer joy to see that smile on your face. And it means a ton to both of us. And there's so many times where I've seen so many people with you, and you can just see, man, they are stoked that personal best tuna, personal best wahoo, personal best grouper, personal best sand bass, personal best barracuda. And we got people from around the world that watch our show every day, Roy. So people don't quite understand what you're doing today. So we're going to get to what you're doing today as far as the long range scene, because people in other countries, they don't get it. And people in Florida, they don't quite understand. When we tell them we had a day where we caught 800 Dorado today, they're like, 800 Dorado this year? No, 800 today. Whoa, I don't understand. My head's going to explode. But with the West Coast is way different than the East Coast, gang. The boats that Roy's working on now in his life go out for 20 days at a time. You can't even comprehend it, but we'll get into that later. This is going to be a phenomenal podcast, but we're going to back up a little bit more because I get really excited, Roy, and I get super excited. We're talking fishing. So you became the deckhand working with your pops. All right.
Yeah.
Now that kind of opened up a whole different world for you, right? Now you're starting to see all the different things. When did you leave your father and go out and work on a boat by yourself? Because that's a huge deal for a guy like you and me.
But as soon as I got was able to get my driver's license. So what was that? 15 and a half. I remember I bought my first car and I let my sister drive it around till I got my driver's license. And then she kind of got bummed because I think I bought the car when I was 13 and she got to use it, but she was my fishing chauffeur. So all my friends, we'd jump in my car and she'd drop us off and she could borrow it, but she had to come pick us up. But we would go fishing everywhere, every ballast point, the sub base, the amphibious base, 32nd Street, anywhere we could go. She would drop us off and come back and pick us up at midnight, whatever. She could have the car till then. But then once I got my license, I started. I got a job working on half-day boats at Seaforth.
Oh, wow! Who was the captain there?
Well, it was back then. Back then it was just the new Seaforth, the San Diego, and the Mission Bell.
Okay.
Jim Hughes and a guy named Mark Mancini ran the Mission Bell. Joel Ralston, Doug Reed, Bob Williams, Kirby Keyser, those guys were all there back then. Basically, like I said, it was just those three. Those were the. They didn't really have. They had a boat there called the Phoenix, which was a 3/4 day boat. That was John Henderson's boat, but it was basically 2 half-day boats. The Mission Bell, which would be used for a utility boat for overflow for the half-day boats or overflow for 3/4 day. But started working over there and worked there up until I started working on the Royal Polaris, basically.
So how cool was that, though? I just want people to understand where our heads are at as kids growing up in the industry and our dads being our mentor, our biggest hero. And then we get to go work on another boat and you don't have that father figure looking down on you and then you're the deckhand on it. I mean, talk about that for a minute, because that is a phenomenal experience for a kid.
Oh yeah, no. The only reason I got the job on the boat is so I could go fishing for free anyway. So that was the main objective. No, it was when you're down there running around. It's. I would always pretend my dad was watching me, and I didn't want to screw up. So it just drove me to be a better person or be more, just to be aggressive, just the way he taught me to be as far as fishing goes, and working deck and doing things and addressing tangles, addressing whatever. Oh, guy's got a bird. Guy's got a tangle. He's rigged up wrong, and that was really fun. Was like, or rewarding would be, okay, you got a guy, let's say he's there, he's got a couple little kids with him, and they're from New Jersey. They don't know anything about live bait fishing or how to use these outfits. It's like, here, let me show you. And you give them a tutorial, you show them how to put the bait on, you show them how to tie the hooks, and you start teaching them how to fish. And then pretty soon they're starting to get it. They're starting to get it. And then they end up with a nice little batch of fish. And obviously the camera's going and you're in a lot of pictures with I don't know how many pictures I've ever been taken with, but everyone, get a camera, hold that fish out, make it a picture of that fish or whatever. But just to show someone that had no idea how to do anything, and just teach them things that they can use when they go back home, as far as catching a fish.
Exactly. I mean, that is such the thing for those of us that do this for a living every day and enjoy it and actually live it. And then when we have time off, what do? We go fish. Yeah, we want to go fishing on our time off, even though we've been fishing. And you just went fishing the other day, but you were the captain, and then you get off the boat and what do? You go fishing, because that's what we do. We go fishing, and then we see people that are out fishing at the lake or the stream or wherever we're at. And if we look at them struggling, I know you're the same way. We would just want to help, but we don't want to embarrass them either. So we're kind of looking from the outside going, oh, if you just did this, or if you just did that, it would be so much better. So then now you're working over there at Seaforth. Did you have your license? Did you get your license while you were there, or did you get your license working on the Royal?
I got my license working on the Royal. I didn't get my license till I was 20. I think I was 23.
Okay.
When I finally got my license, or 24. I got it kind of late. I didn't really have any. I just fished. I concentrated on fishing. I wasn't worried about so-and-so got his license, so-and-so got his license, so-and-so got his license. I go, that's fine. I'll get it when I need it. So as soon as I found out that we're going to have a baby, I go, well, okay, now I got to get my license. So after I had my first child, I go, well, I better get serious about it. And I don't think I'm leaving this industry, so I just better buckle down, knock it out, and get my license. That way my family can, my kids can say, "Oh, my daddy's a captain." So that was basically it.
Right. So look at the boat that Roy spent the last 30 years working on is the premier sport fishing vessel. That's like all of us in the industry always looked up to Bill Cole, looked up at the Royal and saw what he had done. And then to get the opportunity, how did that come about? When did Frank ask you if you wanted to work on the boat, or who asked you to come? Look,
What happened was Brian Kiyahara. I was working on the San Diego. It had turned into a 3/4 day boat at Seaforth, and he always tied up his little lobster boat in front of ours. And I would save him all the carcasses and put him in his lobster skiff for him. And but anyway, I remember I'd known him for maybe a year or two before, well, I mean, at least a year. And then one time I asked him, I go, "Hey, do you think I can go fill in on a trip just to see if I like it, see if I can handle it, see if I can hang with those dudes?" And he's like, "You know what? I'll check." So he like a couple. I asked him like twice because it was like early in the summer, and I thought he'd forgot. And I go, "Hey, what about that trip?" He goes, "Oh, that's right." So he came back and he goes, "Yeah, we got the Thanksgiving trip. If you want to go work on that." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll go. It's a 10-day." I go, "We're done by then. The boat's tied up, so I'll have nothing to do. I'd love to go try it." So I went out. Loomis was driving, Steve Loomis,
yeah.
and I went out. We're catching all these. You're talking about sand bass. We went to this Hutchinson bank, and they're all freaking 4 pound, 6 pound, and they're throwing them back. What the heck? They're throwing back these giant sand bass for catching these 6, 8 pound whitefish. They're shaking them off, and I'm like, "Oh my God, look at these things. They're all huge, and they're all eating lures, catching sheep's head on 6X juniors." I mean, I'd never seen anything like that working half and 3/4 day. You catch a whitefish, it's 10 inches long. You catch a sheep's head, you had to have squid. You never saw big, that many big giant sand bass. But anyway, so we're just throwing all this stuff back, and I'm just like amazed. And then I told Steve, "Let me go up in that. I want to go in that crow's nest." So we're driving along, and there's these Dorado jumping, and they're so small the wind's blowing them. And I go, "Dorado," and I'm screaming, "Dorado!" And he's like, "What?" And he goes, "Where? How far?" And then he looks and he starts laughing. He goes, "We don't fish for that." I go, "Well, we do where I come from." We'll stop catch every one of them. Yeah, so he was like, so then I'm up there a few minutes, and then all of a sudden, tuna. I see a bunch of tuna jumping. They're like 6 pounders, 8 pounders. I go, "Hey, there's all these tuna jumping out of the water over here." And he goes, "You need to get out of that crow's nest." He said, "I'll get down from there. We don't fish for those either." I go, "I'm lucky we can't bring the San Diego down here."
I got a visual in the back of my head. I can totally see it. You're leaving your mind up there screaming, and Loomis is like, "What is wrong with this kid? Get out here."
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, it was like I said, it was fun. That trip we ended up going. We fished the whole ridge. We had good tuna fishing at San Pablo. We were we were there, and there was that. It was like 18 to 25 pound tuna, and it was biting good. And we had a bunch of. It was fun because there was a bunch of rent rodders. And on the San Diego, the way that me and Bob would do it, if we had a bunch of rent rods, we would take the trash can, put all the rods in the trash can, and just literally as fast as you could go, hook in hand, boom, 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 boom. So we had all these rent rods, and they're up the side, and I go, "Hey, Steve, is it okay if I cast these people out?" And he goes, "Yeah, go ahead." And he's up on the tank, and it was biting good because they were up the side, and they're like intimidated, whatever. And it was like being on a half day boat, but except it's a 10-day and it's all tuna. So I take the trash can. I go, give me all your rods, and I put them all in the trash can. I go, we put hooks on all of them. We cut the jigs off, and it was as fast as you could go, as I could go casting and hooking, handing. And Loomis was up there, and he was just laughing. He's going, looks like you've done that before. I go, yeah, normally it's 2-pound bonita, but this is even better. And I go, you want me to stop? He goes, no, 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 no. You just keep doing what you're doing. They'll take care of the rest. So he just had me right there. It was literally, and pretty soon, like nobody had their fishing poles. Like, well, this one's not mine. Oh, that guy's got yours up the side. Yours is over there. They got a fish out over there. But but there was, like I said, there was like, I think it was like 5 people. So there was a bunch of rods there, and Loomis was laughing. He goes, what are you doing? I go, this is where I put the poles. I go, this is how we do it on the San Diego. And then it was like you just rip one out of the trash can, hand it off, grab the next one, hand it off. No, it was fun.
What a great way to start your career on the Royal Polaris, huh?
Oh no, it was a blast. And then we went, and then later on we got involved with crazy Dorado fishing, like you said, and we went down to the Potato Bank. We got those 80 to 110-pound tuna there. Now, and it was a lot of fun. Very edgy, very, very eye opening. Because, like I said, when I got back to the landing, I mean, me and Loomis, we hit it off instantly. Like I said, after we get, because he would tell me stories about Seaforth in the old days, and I would tell him about it, how it is now and stuff. So when we got back, I remember he had told Frank, about the trip, and Frank always asked how was the crew and how was the new guy, whatever, if we could use him again, and Steve was like, yeah, we'll use him again. So then Frank's, they gave me another trip. It was a Christmas 5-day. And then Loomis was driving that. It was the same deal. We fished Guadalupe that trip. And we were catching some nice yellowtail. It wasn't wide open tuna, none of that. It was mainly yellowtail and other stuff. From there, we went into Canoas, and then we had really good wide open yellowtail fishing there. We got some trophies at Lupe, then went into Canoas, and then finished up that way. But after that, Frank had me come in, and he asked me if I wanted to work a January trip, and then that was the Takas trip. I go, yeah, I've never done one of those. And then that's when they asked me if I wanted to work there full time. And I was like, yeah, San Diego ain't running. So I went and asked Bob if I could work half the season at Seaforth, and then the rest of the time on the Royal Polaris. And he goes, no, you can't do that. I go, well, then I got to give you my 2 weeks. I go, that fishing's too good. I go, that fishing's nuts.
Plus, gang, you don't understand. As kids growing up in the industry, Roy and I and everybody, Kiyohara, all of us, we looked at that boat. And now there's 4 other ones, and there's plenty. But at that time, the Royal Polaris was like it. If you could get to the Royal, it'd be like making it to the major leagues for a baseball player. I mean, come on. Let's be honest, and let's think back to when we were kids. That is like it. You would see the Royal coming out. We're all fishing albacore, and you'd see the Royal come out, and Frank running it back when I was a kid. And Frank's running, you're just going, oh. And then they ask you to work on it. Yeah, I can understand how you went right to Bob and said, hey, I'm sorry, but this is it, man. I made it to the big time, baby.
Yeah, heck yeah. No, it's been fun. It still is fun. Absolutely. Yeah, it hasn't changed since the first day. It's like people are basically paying my gas money so I can go fishing. That's how I see it. It takes a lot of gas to get that out.
So now you're working on the Royal. You got full-time. Frank hired you. So now what's going on? Listen, gang, just for fun, those of you that are from Florida and Australia and places that don't understand what's going on here on the West Coast, just for example, Roy, explain to the people how much bait fish. Now, you understand we're talking to people that throw a net and catch 20 bait fish and go fishing for the day. Let them try to comprehend. Let them wrap their head around how much bait capacity is on the Royal Polaris.
No, that's like 700 scoops.
Okay, now listen, gang. 700 scoops of bait. You have to understand the net's going to come with a whole bunch of sardines or anchovies or mackerel in it onto the boat. So we can't even comprehend how many fish that is for bait. Those of you that are thinking 700 scoops, I don't know. Maybe, smarter guys like Ekstrom or Kiyohara can probably tell us how many fish that is in the tank. You and I don't know if we're math majors enough. Maybe you know more than I do. My whole education came on the sport boat.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of bait. And we put it literally everywhere we go, and we hang on to it, and we treat it with the ultimate respect, because it's funny because some boats, like, they'll go out and they just throw all the bait away. A lot of guys throw more bait than needs to be thrown. A lot of guys, you can't conserve the bait. I learned from watching Frank and Steve, the way the boat was set up. It just had the center slammer, and we fish an 18-day trip, and by the end of the trip, we're just throwing the bait away. You're basically just throwing one, throw one of the slow ones throughout, one here, one there. You figure you got 25 guys fishing, and the bait coming off the hooks, it's enough chum to keep the fish around. You got a guy throwing one here, one there. When it gets in bait intensive is when you're trying to stop a school like this bluefin that's around. You're driving around, you meter them, and you run over, let's say, 100-yard area of fish, and it's 20 to 60 fathoms. It's just solid red, just like a river of fish, and you get caught up in the moment. You're like, oh, throw it good, and you sit there and you shovel. Pretty soon there's 140 scoop box of bait gone. Okay, we got 2 boils out of that, and we might have hooked one, or it's like, oh my God. And then before you know it, you're digging into your slammer. It's like, yeah, anymore, it's like, throw a couple dippers if they don't boil up, but you're going to stop on them, and you guys are going to try for them. You're going to try for them with your sinker rigs or your lures, whatever. You can have all the bait in the world, but ultimately the fish need to put in on it too, and they need to react. And a lot of times, especially this bluefin now, it doesn't react. There's a couple of days out of the month where it reacts to that. To be honest with you, it's what it seems like to me. Otherwise, they just keep swimming along, doing whatever it is they do down there. Just frustrate you.
It doesn't make any sense, gang. When Roy's talking about it, all of the captains that are watching right now, they all understand. You see a spot on your fish finding apparatus, we call it the Machina photometer. You guys call it a fish finder because you'd never buy a photometer. But when you look at it on the photometer or you look at it on the sonar, you guarantee in your mind that this stuff's it's going to crawl on the boat. There's no doubt about it. And then the stupid bluefin, like Roy said, you throw 40 scoops at it, and you get 2 boils, and you had a short bite, and then you come out. It doesn't make any sense. Then the next school you go across doesn't look like anything. You throw 1 scoop, and the whole world erupts. And you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense either. It's hard to understand that bluefin. I hate them. I wish they all would die myself, but that's just me. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest. They piss me off, and man, nobody gets any sleep anymore. I couldn't even imagine working on a sport boat where you fish 24 hours every day because you don't know if that stuff's going to bite at 2 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock at night, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 8 o'clock in the morning. That's a
no, it's definitely frustrating, and it's like I said, the guys now. If you look at this early season, it's extremely unpredictable. I mean, one set of boats to go out and get, say, 250 fish collectively between 10 boats in one area. So they're all in that area. They all see the fish. They catch it, or they catch it all night long, and then come daylight, you don't see nothing. you would swear the fish is gone. Everyone's driving around within 5 miles, 10 miles of the same zone. Everyone's constantly checking in, checking out of it. Don't see a scale, and all of a sudden, magically, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, there they are, like they never left. Acres of fish. And then everyone starts getting them, like you said. You get a little shooter in the afternoon. Okay, now we have something to work with. Thank God. Yeah, here they are. But for the first 8 hours of the day, you're driving around. You don't see nothing, nothing to make you even want to stay there. But
Right.
if you venture off because you're programmed to, they're not here. We're gonna move someplace else to go look, and you go and look someplace else, and 2 or 3 of you guys take off. And then there's a couple of guys that are just leaving. Oh, we're just going to aim for the old area. And there they are, right where you left from. You got to turn around and go back. Then you feel like an idiot because you wasted all that time driving back. And then you get there, then the fish stop biting. So there's quite a bit of that goes on. And it's extremely frustrating, this bluefin.
Yeah.
Least.
That's why when you do find them and you do catch them, you feel that much more empowered. But then the next day it humbles you very, very quickly, right? Again, you figure out you don't know anything about these stupid fish. But let's get out of this bluefin because it'll drive me and you can talk about it forever. It'll drive you. So now you're on the Royal Polaris. You're what, 20 years old, 18 years old when you started?
No. By that time I was over there, I was 24, 25 when I started over there.
And Loomis was the captain?
Yeah, it was Steve Loomis, Brian Kiyahara, and Frank, and it was Franklin Presti, Steve, and Brian were the operators.
There you go. There's some legends right there, far out. That's a phenomenal group of guys to learn the boat from. My God. So then when did you become, or no, wait a minute. I'm getting too far ahead. Gang, listen to that. Roy, what's the most wahoo you've caught on a trip?
I've been on a trip where we've had over 400.
Can you hear that, gang? I know you feel pretty proud when you get 2 or 3 on your charter boat over there in Florida. 400 on one trip. I'm trying to break this down so that everybody in the world that's watching this podcast can understand how spectacular this fishery is and to be involved in it for as many years as Roy's been involved with it. And we have plenty of guys that come on our show that have been involved with it. But Roy, you've been on the boat for 30 years. That is an incredible amount of time. You've seen an incredible amount of things. 400 wahoo, gang. Think about that on one trip. Now,
Oh yeah, there's, and I know there's been trips where there's been more, but I mean that's one I can remember.
okay.
You know.
What's the most 200-pound yellowfin on one trip? Listen to this. You're going to be blown away, gang. I want you to understand what this fishery is all about out here on the West Coast.
We had one where we had 88 over 2.
88 over 200. Okay. And what's the biggest one you've been involved in?
We had a 398 is the biggest one we got since I've been there. When they got that, there was a 240 laying on the deck and a 235, and I remember Eddie looking back at me, and there's already 4 gaps in this thing. He goes, "Get another." He's going like this, like, "Get another one." I go, "You already got 4 in there. How big is it?" And he goes, "Get 2 more." I go, "2 more?" And I go, "Come on." So I look over and I go to open the gate, and this thing, the head on it was the biggest thing I'd ever seen as far as a tuna. I'm like, holy cow, you're right. So we brought it through, and it was a real long fish. And but now we got it. We brought it in, and yeah, it was a big one.
Oh my gosh, gang. So what's the longest trip you've been on?
22-day trip. We went to Clipperton a long time.
Yeah.
Gang,
when we're done with the show, don't do it right now. I don't want to lose any of the biggest audience we've ever had. But afterwards, go look at where Clipperton is. And these guys, talk about that for just a minute. So, because those of us on the West Coast, we've heard the legendary stories and things from Frank and from you and Steve Loomis and Keelahara. But people are watching all over the world right now. Explain what a 22-day trip looks like. What are you doing? How do you get ready? What the hell's going on?
How do you get ready? You better bring a lot of bottled water, some electrolytes, something to keep you hydrated because it's pretty warm down there. It's very warm. You're just above the equator, basically. I think it's 9 or 10, whatever it is, but it's pretty warm. There's a lot of very tropical. I mean, you'll be out there baking in 110-degree heat, and all of a sudden here comes a giant rain squall that's rain that's hitting you sideways and it's stinging you, it's hitting you so hard, and then all of a sudden you'll have that for maybe 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden gone, like nothing even happened. The boat's drying off. You're back out there. You're running around in your shorts, and everything's like nothing even happened. But it's a very trippy place. Very warm water. The fish, when you get on them, if you get there, if you're lucky to get there when they're biting, I think it's the warmer water. They're very tough fish. There's literally no. I mean, not that any of them ever get tired, yellowfin, but that place, it's got to be the warm water because they are tough. They're like very lean and very. You're gonna have your hands full trying to land one. Let's say you get a 200-pounder, 250, a 200, a 180, whatever it is you're gonna get, you're gonna pay for it.
Yeah. That's what I heard from Frank in years past. It's like the meanest fish in the ocean live down there. They're just gnarly.
Yeah, they are. Very tough.
Hey, gang, real quick, we're not done. We're going to go over, by the way. We're going to go over an hour, just so you know. I'm sorry. There's way too much to talk about. And Roy and we're going over the hour today. So some of you are going to be late from lunch. You're just going to get back from lunch late. You can explain it later. Tell them you're watching Roy. You couldn't leave. But I wanted to show this out one more time, gang. It's AFTCO Monday, and we got a great thing for everybody. You get to save 15% on AFTCO products just for watching the show. If you grab that QR code right there, or if you're just listening to Roy, put in on your checkout after you go and you get all that bitchin' AFTCO products, and they got everything. They got fillet knives, they got roller tip guides, they got gaffs, they got everything you could need to go fishing. When you're on the website, you'll be blown away. But you're going to save 15% by putting in the code YSWG and the number 15. Or you guys can just grab the QR code right there on the screen, and you can get your 15% off. What I would suggest to do, you don't want to miss any of the show, go back and watch the show after it's live and grab the QR code and then go shopping. But we got so much more fun stuff to talk about. That's why I know we're going over. So look at it. You're 25, 26 years old. You got your captain's license. When does Steve or Frank or Brian, who comes to you and says, Roy, we need you to run a trip? When did that happen? How old were you then?
That was I think it was 1999. I think it was a high 10-day.
Wow. You don't think you know it. It's buried in your head. Don't pretend like you don't. You know the exact.
Oh, yeah. Well, what I remember was the thing I remember. We were fishing for corvina in the regular corvina you catch in the surf. Well, we were catching them by the ferry landing, and I remember going to grab mussels off the rocks, and my hands were shredded. And then we're up all night fishing corvina and bat raising crap, so my hands were all screwed up. And then they go, "Oh, you were supposed to be," because I was supposed to be off. So I was like, "Ah, no big deal. All of a sudden I get a call. Hey, you need you to run this 10-day trip." I go, "Oh, Okay. And I looked at my hands and they were like hamburger. I go, oh man. So that's what I remember most was because the first day we had uh, when we get down to the ridge, we had wide open yellowtail fishing and we just gapping and doing everything. Is you know what I mean? I mean, obviously, if I knew I was going to be running the boat, I wouldn't have been up ripping muscles off the side of the rocks with bare hands. But like I said, I felt like an idiot because I was like running around like a sissy, like, God damn, I can't grab these things. Trying to gap fish, and your hands are just shredded. That's what I remembered most. And we had very, very good fishing. We had we had limits of yellows there, and then we went. And then we just fished tuna on the down the 23. Had very good tuna fishing. Then we ended up running out to the rocks and finished up on that 60 to 110 pound tuna out there, and getting some nice wahoo. It was a very nice trip. I was very happy with it. My first time running a 10-day trip. We had uh, 3 wells of fish, so we're stoked.
That is amazing. Now think back, gang. He said he had limits of yellowtail. Those are your kingfish over there in Australia. Those of you that are watching in Australia, listen to this number. Limits of yellowtail kingfish. How many is limits?
It would be limits to be 15 apiece. And I think on that trip we had 32 people, so it was a bunch.
Yeah,
And
I'm just
they're like 15 to 18 pounds.
getting people to try to understand the amount of fish. And we're not, gang, don't think for 1 second that we have an adverse effect of the population of fish with a fishing pole. All right. That's a big fantasy that the lion media wants you all to believe. You do not have an effect of the population of fish with a fishing pole, not even the great Roy Rose. Even as good a fisherman as you are, you cannot affect the population with the fishing pole. So just understand that when we're talking to you guys, we're barely scratching the surface of this fishery when we go down there. I don't get to go. I've never done it. I don't even know. I'm just talking out my butt. But I'm just telling you, you're not really. I've done it on yachts. I've never done it on a big sport boat like the Royal. But we're not scratching the surface of the amount of fish that are down there. So don't think for 1 second that we are. Oh, you guys are wiping out the population. No. It's not even. Okay, let's go back to the Clipperton. How many days does it take to get there?
6 days.
6 24-hour days driving the whole time. And you
Yeah,
get there, and if the fish aren't biting, you just went 6 days to nothing.
I've seen this. Yes, I've been on a few trips where we've gone there and we've left the same day. So it's it's what it is.
They got tails. They swim around. They move, gang. And you just got to understand when we're talking to you about the sheer numbers, it's overwhelming. But I want to emphasize on the fact that we don't have an adverse effect on the population, first of all. And then second of all, how special this kind of fishing is, how special it is to see this. A lot of the trips that you run, Roy, you got people on there that have saved their whole life for this opportunity to come fish with you because it's not free to go do this. This is a very, very high financial commitment to come do what you're doing at the level that you're doing. You're doing it at the highest level you could possibly do it at without being a yacht owner. And you're turning people on to some of the most extreme fishing they'll ever see, right?
No, absolutely. And if you ever hear me say limits or whatever, it isn't all in one day. It's you go down there, you spend a week, one day you catch five, one day you catch two, one day you catch, you know what I mean? It isn't like, oh, we're just going down there and wiping everything out. You fish your way down the ridge. It's 60 miles of banks and high spots you're checking, and you get there, you anchor up. Yeah, we got 110 yellowtail that day and 150 tuna, handful of grouper, 6 wahoo, whatever. And at the end of over the course of a 10-day trip, that's how you watch what everybody catches. You write it down. We have a board, and we have your number. And once you get near because you're only allowed to have 30 fish total You know, whether you're going a 3-day trip or an 18-day trip, in Mexican waters, you're allowed to have a total of 30 fish. So, like I said, we watch. Getting back to what you're saying about overfishing and this and that. Once we get the guys, okay, you know what? You got a total of you can keep 5 more fish, or you can keep 3 more fish, and we still have this many days left. So you might want to use your tags a little wiser. Release the fish. We practice a lot. Hey, you know what? You don't want them, let them go. Cut them off. Or there's a guy up there, number 17. He's struggling. He'll take a couple. You know what I mean? Kind of spread it out, balance it out. You know, as far as, like I said, when we spit these numbers, oh, we had 200 of these or 300 of these. It isn't like, you know, these are all 1-day hits. Sometimes it does happen that way. Good. You just don't have to worry about that fish anymore. You go target something else, you know. But I want to get that out there so that if there's someone that's thinking, "Oh, these guys are just a death ship out there." I go, no, we're
No.
fishing. We're using poles and reels and lures and line, and they're breaking plenty of them off. Trust me, there's plenty of them that get away.
Yeah, exactly. And nobody cares more about the ocean than us as fishermen. We care more about it than all of you combined, because that's where we make our living. That's where we feel the best in our life. Yeah, we feel good at home with our family and our children, but man, there's nothing like being on the boat out there on the water. And we want to make sure that we get to keep doing that. So believe me, we're the best conservators of the ocean, our fishermen. Fishermen are always been and always will be the best conservators of our sport in our ocean. So just understand that as you listen to this podcast, as it keeps going. And those of you that are new to the podcast, we do this podcast Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. We always bring in phenomenal guests like Roy and Bill Barney. And on Friday, I got Paul Hebert from Wicked Tuna. I'm always bringing in the very best of the industry. And today is no exception. This is probably, and I've done a lot of great podcasts, this is probably one of my favorite ones, because, man, you and I are pretty much, I never got to work on the road, but you and I are bleeding the same blood, baby. We love we love turning people on to catching. Let's talk a little bit about the Royal Polaris kite fishing. You guys have been into this kite thing before you ever started working on the boat, right?
Oh yeah, no, I remember I was at a Chinese restaurant reading about this kite. I was looking at a Western Outdoor News, and I think it was a trip that Tim Exum had run. He had a very good trip. I think he had. I mean, I was still working at Seaforth, but I remember it was a phenomenal. I think he had 6 or 7 over 3 and 22 over 2. It was like the trip of the year, trip of the century. I was like, man, that sounds badass. I go, and then I was looking down there, and they're using words like using salamis under the kite, and I'm thinking, salami, what the hell, salamis? And then when I came over and started working, well, salami is a 3-pound mackerel, regular greenback 3-pound mackerel. You put a hook in the back and you send it out on the kite. I remember I was exposed to it watching Loomis. We're out there fishing. Back then we could fish all the islands and stuff, but we'd make mackerel at night. You put the kite out. The kite line has a clip in between. You clip it in. Back then it was 100-pound test was the biggest, was the heaviest mono we had. You clip them in and you send them out there on the kite, and you keep the mackerel on the surface, and the fish come up and they blow out on it. And it was like, holy man, look at the size of that one. You'd watch 150 pounder, 180 pounder, then all of a sudden you see one that was like 300 pounds, and you're like, oh, I hope that one got it. It was like, man, look at that. Sorry. But anyway, it's like, man, look at that.
Yeah, we get a little excited about fishing, but for a couple of guys that grew up on the half-day boat, when you see that first explosion, man, that is the most unbelievable, addicting thing we've ever seen, right? You guys are doing it here. A lot of people don't, you guys are anchored up, right?
Yes, you're anchored up and you have 2 kites out. And A lot of times, the most exciting blowout on it is when you're using the flying fish, because you put the flying fish out there, you get live flyers. You put them in the back of the, you put them, hook them in the back of the neck. You got them out there, and nothing's going on. Then all of a sudden, when you got that live flyer out there, all of a sudden he takes off, and it looks like a tether ball, and it's sitting there and it's scurrying around and scurrying around, and every time it hits the water, there's a salvo, boom, 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 and you'll watch some of them fish. Like I said, you can just see the different size ones that are blown out on these things, and this poor flying fish is just like he's on a tether ball, like a just, and eventually there's the crash. He grabs it, and you look up, and I just tell the guys, hey, don't listen, because everyone's yelling, "One!" It's like, "Don't one!" Watch the clip. You look up at the clip. Once the clip starts moving towards the water, then you wind. I remember one trip. I remember this guy. It was not too. It was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But Vince Corbacci. We're out there. Big giant tuna blows out on his kite. I remember it was the last day of the trip. We got I think his was 325, and I think John Yamati had a 318 or something. But anyway, we're out there. We got the kite baits out. It's about 8:30 in the morning, and Big Fish showed up his last morning, and kite baits out there. And I remember Vince. He's sitting there, and this big giant yellowfin blows out on the kite bait, and it's skipping. It's like going around like in a circle. And I go, free spool. But he never put it back in gear. So the thing ate it, and you watch the clip, and the clip's just doing this. It's like, what the hell's going on? I look, and the line's just pouring off of his reel, and I go, put the thing in gear. And he puts it in gear, and then rips him down the side. And he's a pretty big guy, and it jammed him into the stern. But this thing swallowed it, and like I said, the whole thing, this whole scenario, when you're seeing all this going on, you would swear it was a freaking year, but the whole thing's 30 seconds. It's like boom, boom, but then you're waiting for the clip to slam, but the clip's not slamming into the water because the dude was in a free spool. It's like, dude, put the thing in gear. And he put it in gear, and boy, it ripped him, just buried him up against the transom. And he was able to hang on. And we got it. It was a big, beautiful fish. But it was just funny watching that clip doing this. And everyone's like, they're like,
what's going on? What's
going on? When's it gonna come tight? Because it's gonna come tight. And everyone's like, it's like they're watching a golf game, and the guy's making his $1 million golf hit in, and everyone's quiet, please. And they're waiting to start clapping. And it's like, what the hell's going on? And then finally, when he put it in gear, they're like, yeah, everyone just explodes, like, fuck, you got it. And then there goes the epic battle.
And then now it's time for the next guy, right? You kind of do a rotation.
It's instant. The way we work the kite on there is, you either you're up there for an hour, or you get a bite. That's it. So we put you out. You get a 50-pound tuna. Next, we put you out. A fish comes up, knocks your bait off the hook. Next, we put you out. You get a stupid shark. Next. That way we can get through that kite rotation. We go through that thing 3 times, 4 times in a day when it's biting good. That way, because back in the old days, it was you're up there till you caught a fish. And then we would sit there, and it would be like, okay, well, you get 3 chances. And it's like, you know what? After I started running and watching and listening to all the people snivel and whine, and the poor guy that's been up for 3 days on the kite, people would call it kite jail. It's like, you know what? We had this one trip where the Wahoo were just giving us the business, and it was literally as fast as you could go. So we're like, screw it, next. And then after that, you know what? That went great, because we just went through the whole rotation in less than 45 minutes. That's how fast they were biting these mackerel off. And I said, you know what? Screw it. That's how we're going to do it from now on. And that's how we did it. And on the boat, I give the people an in-depth seminar. And I tell them, look, here's how it is. I go, we're going to be using the kite, and you know the kite gets all the press. The kite gets all the big fish come on the kite. Yes, um, but I've had trips where people get so wound up on the kite where if they miss their kite turn, they want to break the rod. Oh, I got screwed. Like, you know, some people are like a poor sport. Oh, I got effed or what I got. No, you didn't. You had a bite. All
Yeah.
you're doing is trying to get a bite. It's no different than you fly lining a sardine or dropping a chunk or casting a jig. What are you trying to do? You're trying to get a fish to bite. That's it. So when you cast a sardine and you miss one, what do? You put another sardine on and then you try for another bite. Well, this time you had the kite, you had your bite, you're done. Our job's done. Whatever you caught, that's what you got. Whether you got a wahoo, a tuna, a 200-pound tuna, it doesn't matter. The kite did its job. You got the bite, period. And the rest is up to luck. If you got the fish, cool. If you didn't, not a problem. You'll be back up before the sun goes down. I guarantee it. That, like I said, it's 1 hour, one bite. It's like that, just like that. And that way, and this way, people aren't all bummed out or they're like, oh, I'm gonna be back up again. I get another shot at it, you know.
Yeah, and it makes them a little more focused next time because they screwed up the bite.
Well, I mean, it's just sometimes the hook will turn back into the bait. You know, I've gotten away from them 7691s, which is that big giant J hook, and we prefer on there. I like to see the guys using 18-0 or 20-0 circle hooks. That way, that hook does what it's designed to do. The fish grabs it, he runs away with it, and that hook sets the hook for you. So by the time you're winding, you're coming tight, it's already on there. And it grabs the whole side of the fish's face. I mean, a 20-0 circle hook, I've had it where it comes in here and it comes out their eye over here. I mean, it gets them good. A lot of times with that 7691, they'll blow out on it. The hook goes through the bait, back into the body. So the hook never has a chance to come out. I mean, it pulls the clip, it takes drag. Sometimes they'll have the fish on there for a couple, 2, 3 minutes, but then the fish lets it go and you come back in, and it was like you just had a giant hook protector on there. The hook never got out of the bait. The fish was just hanging on to it, swimming off like a dog with a bone.
Right. Oh my gosh, how spectacular is that to watch, though? I can't even imagine how bitching that must be to sit there and be the ringmaster, be the guy in charge of the whole poop show, for lack of a better word.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's funny, especially when they start hitting. When they're biting good, they're hitting it 15 feet from the boat. And you get sometimes you get wet. It's like, oh, you see that one? I mean, it's like, it's good stuff when they get on that thing.
Now, you got the opportunity to fish at Guadalupe for a little while, right? Before they closed it up?
Yes, we did.
What? Talk about, because there's a lot of people that are watching that can only, how cool it would be to see a white shark. What's it like down there in Guadalupe when you're trying to catch tuna and the taxman is...
Oh, for me, it's a nightmare, but I mean, you just anchored up and you're sitting there, you're fishing, and you're starting to hook these 60 to 80-pound tuna, whatever, 100-pound, whatever's around. Say there's 60 to 100-pounders, whatever. And sometimes the sharks they're manageable. By that I mean, if you're able to keep at least 4 fish going constantly. Let's say you gap one, you hook another one. You can be okay and you'll end up with a decent day. But if you get 3 or 4 of those sharks on you, 5 of them, you won't be able to. You don't land anything. It's very bad. I mean, you're sitting there hooking these things, and they don't wait until they eat them right next to the boat. Like once you got them at color, and you got this poor guy that's been fighting this thing for 40 minutes, half an hour, and he's got it at color, and all of a sudden you just see this giant menacing
white
gray thing, and all of a sudden the shine disappears, and there goes the fish. It's like, Another one. And you got to move around. You got to move. I mean, otherwise you just sit there and you just keep feeding them. And it's like, ah, man, we've been hooking fish for 3 hours and we have 6 written down. That's not working. I mean, I never let it get to that point, but by that, I'm very aggressive. When I go, you know what, screw this. I would rather not hook anything than feed those animals. It's like, you know what, this is no fun. I remember this one trip, this guy's like, he was excited. The first one is we're at Outer Rock. This shark comes up, eats his 80-pounder. Oh man, that was cool. That was cool, and that was worth the price of admission. So 5 in a row. I'm up in the wheelhouse, and I hear this guy, son of a mother, and I go, hey, what happened? It was. I go, hey, that's great. You still having fun feeding that shark? How do you feel about it now? That's your 6th one. Is it still worth the price of admission? He's like, F that thing. I go, now you know how I feel. That's why we're moving. Yeah, he was like, he was going crazy up there.
And do something for everybody that's all my viewers. The weirdest thing for me, because I never got to fish with those until I finally did my first Guadalupe trip on this yacht I was running. And the thing is, we've had sea lions up in Southern California forever, and they grab your fish and they pull on it and they pull on it. It's a tug of war, and then all of a sudden you get the head back.
Yeah.
Down there, the most amazing thing for me, and you can talk more about this, is when whitey bites your tuna, and that can be an 80-pounder or a 100-pounder. Talk about it. It's the craziest thing, gang. It's like someone took the sharpest knife in the whole world and just sliced your fish's head off. And you don't even, it's just like this. Done.
Oh yeah, it's like they just walk. It's like they're just nipping at grapes. Yeah, I wish I had known you were gonna talk. I got some shark pictures on this phone. I got some cool ones actually, but I mean, yeah, it's cool if nobody's ever seen it. But when you're trying to make a catch, you're like, oh, they're like they're like it's like you just said. It's like a sea lion, or they're just all they're doing is ripping off your fish. But I mean, I'll send them to you so you can show them another time. It's neat. It is neat. Don't get me wrong. It's neat, but not when you're trying to do it for a
living. Not when you're trying to make a living.
Yeah.
But gang, it's hard to imagine or hard to comprehend. The bite is so subtle. It's like, and guys like Roy or Tim or Brian, they've all seen it a million times. Me, I'd never seen it before. I had no idea what had just happened. It is like that. It's just, and like Roy said, the gray goes by and the silver's gone, and you didn't even know. And then all of a sudden, it's like, wow, it got really light. Yeah. One bite, he just took the whole fish and left you the hook inside of the fish's face. And these guys don't chase the tuna, like Roy was saying. They didn't get to be 16, 18 feet by exerting a bunch of energy
No.
around underneath the boat. They're just doing their big, giant circle, waiting for you to wind your fish the last 15 or 20 feet. Everyone's standing there looking.
Oh, yeah, they make sure you're watching.
Yeah, they do. It's so crazy. It's just crazy, gang. If you haven't seen anything, it's just the wildest thing. But then down on the bank, down on the ridge, I've had some epic shark bites on the 9 and on the 23 and on the 33. I've had some unbelievable where it went straight wahoo and then all of a sudden straight brown sharks, like mind-boggling amount. They just came out of nowhere and it was just packs of them. I know you guys see that all the time, right?
Oh yeah, no, they did. They're a menace. They're like, we had to deal with them on that last long trip. They didn't eat that much fish, but I was talking to Justin Fleck this morning, and he's coming back. He's got a nice trip on the Excel, but he said the sharks at the bank he was able to scratch fish, but he said the sharks were very bad because they were pretty aggressive. Because I know the trip we were there, we just had them little black tip reef sharks, which were more of a nuisance because we're hooking them. But he had those silkies and those Galapagos brown ones are the ones you're talking about. And those things eat everything you hook. You know, it isn't like the little ones where you're just hooking these pain in the butt sharks. These are just like wolves, coyotes, hyenas, whatever you want to call them, but they just wipe you out, and it's very disheartening. Again, it's one of those deals where you just got to move the boat and just get the hell away from there because you just can't. It's just a waste of a beautiful fish. You're just hooking and feeding these things. And it's like that ain't cool. I mean, you know, it's just you're just wasting these fish.
And isn't it crazy that the fish, those wahoo and those yellowfin, with all the sharks in the water at that time, they'll still eat your lure. They'll still eat your
Oh
variety.
yeah,
And
oh
the
yeah, they'll
minute
outrun them sharks. It's just now they're on a tether line.
the
Now
minute
they're
they eat
screwed.
it, they get eaten.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, we have it bad. Like at the rocks, there's a shark out there. It's a bronze whaler, and it's a big. They're like 12 foot, 10 foot, and it's a very broad-headed shark, and they are extremely fast. I mean, it's you'll sit there, you'll be trolling along, you get a strike, and they're on the trollfish like that. And again, that's the only way you're gonna be able to land anything is on the troll. I've had it to where we'll troll if we have a light load or whatever. We'll get strikes. I won't even stop the boat. I'll just say, you know what, screw it. We're gonna fish wahoo, and we're gonna fish with 200-pound test. We're using the kite gear, and we're not stopping the boat. We're gonna get bit. You're gonna put it in low, and you're just gonna turn the handle. I go, if you want to take home some wahoo to eat, this is the only way we're gonna do it. So that's why we're gonna have to do it. I mean, otherwise you stop the boat, you get bit, you hook them, they take them all.
Right.
Or you get the head back and half the body, or sometimes they'll even eat the damn. There'll be a ball of. You look up there and there's a ball of sharks attacking your wahoo. Now you got a shark hooked. Now you got to deal with that thing. You know, trying to get. Oh, I want my lure back. It's like, hey, you ain't getting that lure back.
Then you jump right in there and go get it. We'll watch. Let me film it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sorry, buddy. You hope you brought another one. I mean, sometimes we're lucky we can get it back, but uh, for the most part, they take your lure.
And since you're saying that, let's talk about something else in tangle. Nowadays with this braided line, when you get in a big tangle and you got that guy in the back going, hey, Roy, mine's on the yellow line. And you're looking at it and it's a giant spot. You're like, what are you talking about?
Oh yeah, no, anymore. When we do the seminar, I'll explain to the passengers, especially when we're fishing Guadalupe, because it's a river, and a lot of the water runs so fast, and certain people have no feel, or the current runs so fast they don't realize they got wound in. So what happens is one guy winds in three people, but they still have hooks on their line. So I explain to the people, and I tell the crew, listen, when you get to that hook, just cut the hook. Don't even screw with that spectra, because I don't care how fast you are. I don't care who you think you are. By the time you feel that line go tick, it's in your hand, or it's or you're. It's happened to me before. I just grab it. I go, oh, it's just a quick loop around. I'll just grab it and just unwrap the loop real. It'll take me half a second. By the time I grabbed it and even dreamed of making that loop, it went tick, and it sliced the corner of my finger, and it's like I cut it with a freaking, like I was trying to peel an orange. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, so after that, I go, you know what? And I tell the people so they don't get pissed off with the crew members. Oh, these guys are lazy. They just cut the line. No, it's a safety issue.
Right.
And I tell the passengers, don't touch that line. It comes tight. You see your hook, cut it. You can grab your hook and just get it out of there. Because if it comes tight, I've already seen someone lose a thumb. I've lost pieces of my fingers twice dealing with spectra. Like trying to save fish actually, and got my hands cut a couple of different times. But I actually got to have some, not that it was anything special, but I watched the thumb fly off because of spectra. in a backlash. So you guys that are fishing with that stuff, I don't care how good you are, you think you are, you keep your hands out of any loops. Do not, under any circumstances, get your fingers in any of that because it comes tight, it's gone.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. It
That
ain't cool.
whole hook thing, it's got to crack you up. We got a giant box of hooks on the bait tank. You can have as many as you want. I love the guy. I love the guy that's crawling around on the deck when his fish is flipping around on the deck and trying to get his hook out of the fish's mouth. It's like, bro, there's a whole bunch of hooks on the tank. What do you do? Get up. Get up. Get off the deck. What are you doing down there?
Yeah,
Oh,
you're gonna mess your knees up.
you're in the middle of a wide open bite. Here's a guy crawling around on the deck trying to get his hook. And it happens every trip, gang. Don't think it doesn't. Next time you're out on the boat, you'll see that guy. And he becomes a giant hazard for all of us because we're not used to people crawling. So we trip over you, the deckhand's running down the deck, and here you are on the deck crawling. We're not looking for people crawling on the deck. We're looking for you standing up. Don't worry about your hook. And like Roy said, guy's in a big tangle and he's worried about his hook. If I'm in a big tangle, I already cut my line. I'm long gone. You don't even know. My line's that green line that's in the middle of it, but I already put on another leader and I'm already fishing while you guys are playing with the tangle. So, if you're in a tangle too, it's your fault. I don't care what level you think you are. If you're in a tangle, it's your fault. Get the hell out of there. And don't tell Roy, that's my yellow line, Roy. You know me, man. I'm one of the pros. Get that thing out of there.
Yeah, it looks like my hair that ain't coming untangled. That's like you're out. You better put some fresh line on there.
Go grab one of those other 45 rods you brought out. That's got to crack you up too when they come with that tackle store with the fork. You got to have a forklift to lift their tackle box on the boat. I know you guys see that a lot. You're like, where are you going? Where are you going?
There's some pretty nice tackle boxes out there. They have stands and stuff, but some of them are pretty big. I know Frank's big on. Some of them take up room. Some of them take up too much room. So we got to try and put them. Make them as less obvious as possible.
And thinking about that, how many rods would you, let's say Roy's going on a 10-day trip tomorrow. How many rods is Roy bringing? Because this is a question I get all the time. I don't understand bringing all those rods. Maybe a handful of extra reels, but not a bunch of rods.
Yeah, I mean, like if you come on a boat and you're a rent rod on a 10-day trip, we give you 4 or 5 rods. You got a 100-pound outfit, which you're going to use as a dropper loop or your trolling outfit, or if we're going to be in a bigger fish area. You get an outfit for wahoo, which would be a 50-pound outfit for jigging. You got a 60-pound 2-speed reel, and we give you a 30 or 40-pound test outfit for your fly line live bait outfit. That's it. That's all you need. You just need to be able to just tie hooks and know what you're gonna. Hey, we're gonna fish wahoo. Cut that yo-yo jig off and put this wahoo lure on. Same rod, same outfit, same everything. Just different application.
And I'm not trying to embarrass any of the guys that ride with you or anybody, but really, when they show up with 20, 25, they got to make 2 trips to the car to get all their rods. Doesn't that just blow your mind?
Nah, that's just more rods for me to use. That's how I see it. But no, but some guys do bring a lot of stuff. But like I've seen some guys are so into it. Let's say like we had this guy named Dean Yoshizumi. He is an excellent live bait fisherman. Bluefin, like when it was scratch fishing bluefin, this dude would always just get them. But he was one of these dudes where he would have 4 of the same exact rods and reels. So the second he caught a fish, he would just cut it, go grab the exact replica, come down and cast it out. Hook another one. And then by the time he burned up all 4 of those, he would take the time and rig them all back up. If they needed a fresh top shot, if they needed this, if they needed that. That was just him because By that time, he figured, hell, I already got 4 of them. And this is before when you could have 15 of them. So, well, I already got 4 of them. Now I can take a breather, re-rig. But he was very, he was a jeweler, so he's very meticulous. You know, he just loved doing all all that stuff. You know, but he was one of those people, like you're saying, he's got 4 of the same poles, 4 of these, 4. You know what I mean? Identical stuff. And I asked him, I go, man, they're all the same damn pole. He goes, that way I don't have to stop. He goes, by the time I stop, I've already got a nice little cushion. I go, well, that makes sense. But he literally would not stop. He'd catch that fish, cut the line, and throw the pole down and grab another one. Same, and just go right back in the water.
You know what's good about what you're saying? If we go all the way back to the beginning of this podcast, that's what you and Bob used to do on the San Diego. You had all the rods in the trash can.
That was it.
The same thing. I try to explain to all my crew members, we have 25 rods on the boat. We have 6 people. Every single rod should have a hook on it when we go sliding into this kelp patio or we go sliding into this spot of breaking fish. And then we just go through the rods. And that's the same thing this guy was doing. And that's the same thing you've been doing since you were a little kid.
Yeah, just burn them all up. Good. Okay, let's go look for another kelp. Get the shit re-rigged.
Exactly, gang. So all I'm trying to do is help you guys. You don't want to show up with 900 fishing poles to go on a trip. And I don't care if it's a 22-day trip to Clipperton. Talk to the guys in the office, talk to the captains, find out what you guys are going to go do, and bring just appropriate rods, maybe a couple of extra reels. I always say, just because, yeah, a reel has a malfunction, but that rod's still bitching. The rod's going to be phenomenal. I'm doing Roy. I'm bringing 4, maybe 5 if I'm doing it. And if I run out of rods, I'll hook in hand with the other people.
There you go. Yeah, like I know, like for us on the long trips, let's say we get the guy gets a 200-pound outfit. It's the same deal. This 200-pound outfit, if we're fishing Hurricane Bank and we're using live skipjack, you get a 200-pound leader. It's basically it's going to be your kite outfit. So you fly line a 12-pound skipjack, you get a 180, a 200-pound tuna, whatever. Oh, sun's coming up. You don't even need to re-rig. I mean, obviously he's going to re-rig, but grab the same rod and reel. Now you're going to put it out on the kite because it's the same. It's 200-pound test gear, and like I said, you're trying to catch the biggest fish of your life, and you're fly line on a 12 to 15-pound bait. Then the sun comes up. Now we're going to use the same pole. We're going to put it out on the kite and catch one that way with it. You know, so that eliminates, instead of having to have a separate big bait rod, separate kite rod, separate jig rod, same rod can be used as a jig. You just tie a PL 68 on it and drop it over the side. Like I say, you're just going to be tying a lot, which is like tying your shoes, big deal.
Yeah, it's part of the deal. I mean, tie on a bunch of hooks all day. When I go fish Lopez Mateos, I was telling people on my podcast the other day, I'll go through 100 hooks in a day fishing in the mangroves because you and I both know that the big fish live in the root. So you're throwing your bait in the root over and over and over again. And I don't take 2 seconds. I snap it off, tie another hook on. I don't bring 85 rods to go fish in the mangroves. I bring my 2 bait rods and 1 jig stick, period. That's what I bring on the trip. And I'm going for 3 days to fish in the mangroves. It's different than fishing the long range, but it's not. Like Roy said, that 1 rod that you're using for the flat fall or the knife jig or whatever you use, it can be your kite rod in the daytime, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just understand, when Roy and any of the captains, Brian or any other captains see you and you have 72 rods, that doesn't make them think anymore about it. They already love you. They're stoked that you're there and they're stoked that you're going fishing with them. They're not going to think any more of you if you have the most fishing rods. Right?
Oh yeah, no, it's I always laugh because like guys that go bass fishing, I want they're very much into. I mean, they'll be 15 rods, and they go to grab one, and it's just in a big tangle. They say, "Oh, there's a boat. Let me grab my lucky crab. Ah, I'm in a tangle. Oh, I'm gonna cast my buzzbait. Oh shit, it's tangled." It's like Hey, I just bring one or two poles, one with a plastic worm and one with whatever I can just tie a frog or a whatever on. But because I did a lot of shore fishing, so I'm not gonna be running around with 15 poles. I got one pole and a fanny sack with a bunch of junk in it.
Yes.
You just run around your dikes and cut stuff off, try it. It takes half a second to tie a lure on. I mean, that's all. Like I said, learn how to tie a fast knot. You can cut your tackle down dramatically.
Big time, gang, big time. And I love what you were talking about it 45 minutes ago or whatever when we were talking fishing the back bay of San Diego. I never had done that before. I know it's kind of weird, Roy, but I didn't grow up in San Diego. I grew up in Dana Point, San Clemente. I got to go with Al Flowers on his boat and go fish that back bay. Oh my God. Isn't that spectacular fishery back there?
Oh,
Oh,
it's amazing. That was amazing. We'd go back there and catch. I mean, at the time, I didn't know that there was short fin corvina back there. So we're catching these things. And I go, man, damn short white sea bass, 25 inches. Oh, another one. Throw it back. Throw it back. So then I remember I'm looking in this book and I go, man, this thing's got fangs. And I go, I'm gonna bring one home and show it to my dad. So I bring him a nice 26-incher home, and I go, Dad, what is it? He goes, oh, that's a corvina. I go, these are the ones. These are the ones. I mean, I didn't know any better. I was a little kid. I go, well, there's a bunch of these back there. Man, you should have seen them. He's like, what? You're catching these, we would sneak into the power plant. We would sneak into the Coronado Cays, whatever, and go catch all those orange mouth, bonefish, Jack Crevalle, green, all that cool stuff. I mean, I don't know if there's any Jack Crevalle back there left anymore, but there was quite a bit of it back there back when the power plant was working. That was really a lot of fun to fish going in there.
that's what Al was telling me. He was telling me about the jacks that used to live back there and stuff. But I'll tell you what, for 3 hours, we did not have 1 second where we didn't have a fish. 3 hours, it was as fast. And I'm like you, I've gotten to fish in some pretty spectacular places, but I'll tell you what, when you can fish in your backyard and catch fish, I don't need a 300-pound bluefin to be happy. An 18-inch bonefish was like lifetime memory. It was so fun.
Oh yeah, those things pull good. I remember the first ones I caught where I was fishing at NTC, and I had a double dropper loop. I was fishing for croakers, and I had a rod and a sand spike, and I'm fishing a plastic, and I look over, my pole starts bending, then all of a sudden it really starts bending. And I'm thinking, oh, my pole's gonna get yanked in. So I run over there, I grab it, and I wind it in, I look, and I got there's like a 13, 14-inch spotted bass on the top hook, and it looked like a spinner blade going through the water, just getting spun. And on the bottom is this shiny thing, and I'm going, what the hell's on here? I drag it up onto the sand, and it's like a 15, 16-inch bonefish, but I didn't know what it was. So I bring it home to my dad. I go, Dad, what is this thing? He goes, oh, that's a bonefish. I had caught 3 of them. And he goes, where'd you get that at? I said, NTC. Because when I just started driving around anywhere I could drive into that had water, and I would just start fishing it. And he's like, oh, yeah, those are in there. And he said there was another fish in there called there used to be ladyfish, I guess, back when he was a 10-pounder is what he called it. But I guess those used to be in that estuary too. He said he used to catch them. That and turbot, flounder, big turbot. Obviously, all that stuff's gone now. I've never seen it, but he used to get him in there. I mean, he's 80. What is he? 86 or 87 now. So he's seen some fishing.
Yeah, so have you. So have you. Buddy. So have you. Just to be in the position that you're in your life, you've been very blessed in this fishing industry, and I'm very glad to be able to call you a friend. And I really appreciate you spending some time. I know you just got in from a trip and you got your children there and your wife. And I thank you so much for taking time to sit down here with us and talk. And we can go a few more minutes if you're good with that. If not, if you got to get going, I understand. Let me know.
Nah, you just end it whenever you want to end it. I got nowhere to be.
We're live. There is no edit, buddy. We're live. We've got 180 people watching us live right this second, my friend. It's pretty spectacular. So, gang, when we started this show, a lot of you weren't watching, but Roy and I wanted everyone to understand how this passion of fishing is. And this is brought on by our fathers. Our dads took us fishing when we were little boys and let us work on the boats with them when we were little, and we didn't care about money. I know it's hard to imagine kids coming out and working on the boats nowadays. The first thing they're asking is, how much am I getting paid? When we grew up in the industry, we just wanted to be on the boat. We didn't know there was money involved. Like my buddy Dave Burris said, a cheeseburger and a Coke was about all we needed. And we got that. And then they threw a candy bar in too. Oh my God. But that's how, like when I bring Tim Ekstrom on here and I bring a lot of the old guys that are, well, we are all old now. I mean, it's hard to believe we're the old guys, Roy, but
Yeah.
everybody's got the same story, how magical it was the first time we went fishing. And like you said, is you had your sister drop you off on every spot that you could look at it until you got your driver's license, and then you were out there doing it. We got to get children involved. It's so important. Like when I do trade shows, I bring a ton of swag from all my sponsors and I give everything away to all the children that come to the show. I think this is a challenge from everybody that's watching. It's super important to take kids fishing. If you're a grandfather or you know somebody in your family that you haven't taken fishing yet, take them. You have no idea. You could start the passion like Roy and I have, right, buddy?
Absolutely. It's like I said, I've been to wherever we go. Like if I don't have my kids with me, and I see there's a little kid that they're trout fishing and they haven't caught nothing, it's like pole goes off. Hey, go ahead and grab that, and then they'll look at their grandfather or their dad, and they'll go, "Are you sure?" I go, I promise, I've caught plenty. Let him reel it in." And they'll sit there and they'll run over there, and oh, you just tell them, "Hey, don't pull so hard. Nice and easy." You coach them through it, and you get it. And I tell you a funny story. We were at Lake Marina, and this family, there was a little boy and the mother, the father. There was four people in this rental boat, and they went out all day long. And the little boy was chewing his parents out. He's like a little spoiled kid, I guess. We didn't catch nothing. Blah 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 blah. He was, just being a little spoiled brat. But anyway, he was frustrated because they'd been out 2 days and they hadn't caught anything. And we were catching these giant carp. They're like 12 pounds, 15 pounds on 9 foot rods with 6 pound. And I've got a couple. I got my nephew, and he's probably got 10 of them already. So we're sitting there, and as the kid's reaming his parents, I go, "Excuse me, young man." And his parents, I go, "Come over here for a minute. Let me show you something." Again, all of a sudden the pole just doubles over like we're trolling it. I go, "Go get that pole right there." And that kid dropped all his crap. He ran over there, and he's out there for 10 minutes. The epic struggle, right? I told his little sister, "Go get the net. You're gonna go net it." So I went out with her and I let her net the fish, and the dad had everything on video. I mean, it was so cool. He whipped his phone out, and they videotaped this whole epic fight. And then the sister scooping the fish. The brother and I go, "Don't drop my pole." I just go, "Don't drop my pole in the sand." Because that's what kids do. They just throw shit down and run to the fish. So he grabs this thing and he's holding it, and he's just covered it, that stinky carp. But he's hugging it like it's like a teddy bear. And he's got this picture. He's got this grin from ear to ear. The mom's crying, and I'm just sitting there sipping on my Coors Light, going, "Now that's cool." And the whole family was like, "Oh my God, you just made his whole weekend." And it was just, he just wanted to catch one fish, and that one, I know carp's trash fish. Yeah, carp's this, carp. It doesn't matter. It's a fish, and kids can fight it, and it makes them happy. All kids want to do is get a bite.
Right.
That's it.
All I want to do is get a bite.
Yeah, it's all about the bite any time. But it was just funny. It was so cool seeing that it went from the gloomiest day to the happiest day for that little kid. So excited.
All because of a silly little fish, gang. Like Roy said, Any of you out there that are saying, oh, it's just a carp, or oh, it's just a mackerel, or oh, it's just a tomcod, well, then you're losing the whole thing. Every fish your child or grandchild catches has to be the greatest fish they've ever seen or caught, and it's up to you to make sure it's that way, gang. Don't blow this. Don't blow this thing. Don't miss out on having a little Roy in your life or a little Dave in your life. You can do that. You can absolutely do that, man. There's so many things we could have done that were really bad, but thank God for fishing. We're both sitting out here free with family.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, gang, I'm going to wrap this thing up. I got to take my wife to an appointment. And so, Roy, this has been the best podcast so far I've ever had. So, we're definitely bringing you back. This ain't it. We all want everybody wants to see the shark stuff you got. So,
oh yeah, I'll text you some.
We're going to bring them back. We're going to do it real soon, gang. This is getting into the busy season for the San Diego Long Range Fleet. You can find Roy down in San Diego. You'll watch his social media. Him and his wife are going to be very active on Roy Rose's social media. We'll give you all that information. You can reach out to me. Give me a call at 949-374-0786. Yes. One of the people are asking, is that Roy's real hair? Absolutely.
Yeah. That's probably the most, next to what size hook should I use? Is that real hair? I go, give it a yank. It's there.
Oh my God. Absolutely, gang. It's real hair. And if you look, go to the Royal Polaris or go to Roy Rose's page, you can see every picture has that hair in it.
Yeah. This was spawned during COVID. They said I couldn't get a haircut. So I said, I just let it go, then screw it.
And now it's you. Now it's part of you. People will be blown away if you don't have that hair next time you. Because Roy's like me, I can see what's going to happen. He's not going to get a haircut. He's going to shave his head. We only have two extremes, buddy. We're all in whatever we're doing.
There you go.
Okay, last time, gang, there's the AFTCO code. If you want to get some cool clothes or some cool fishing gear, go to AFTCO. Use my code 15% off YSWG and the number 15. I will see you all tomorrow. I'll have all my guides back on the show. Pablo, Justin, Al, and Sonny will be joining us. We'll be talking about what's coming up this week, how bitching the weather's going to be. Thank you guys for watching the show today. Roy, thank you very much for a phenomenal show. Lauren, thanks for putting this all together. If it wasn't for your beautiful wife, Roy, we wouldn't have got to do this. So thank you, Lauren. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for